This evening's workshop is Collaborative Learning Global Awareness Activity. And we have one trusty fellow Roar Scholar here, two actually, but that are going to be involved with us tonight as we do our Collaborative Learning segment. So first of all, I want to ask, when you think about collaborative learning, what are some things that come to mind?
Combining one style with another. Learning technique with another learning technique.
What now?
To be effective.
To be effective, okay.
Learning.
Well, let me put this up here first. So let's take collaborative first, okay? So we're going to run up here. So collaborative. We're going to run out of room too.
I guess collaborative learning.
So collaborative. When you think of the word collaborative, what do you think of?
Combining things together.
Okay. Combining.
Different methods.
So combining, okay.
Get an effective learning style.
Effective learning styles, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you be a little more specific with that?
Like, if you're visual order learning, you could combine with the writing,
Okay.
writing down stuff with the visual part.
Not necessarily on that piece of that. That's a good point, but that's not kind of what we're going for. We're going for more specifically that collaborative learning. You take collaborate means to combine, right? To be together. And then you take learning, which means what?
Your subjects of studies.
So you're taking information in, right?
Yeah.
So you put them together, and we have a really interesting dynamic that happens. So we have this piece, which is called collaborative learning. And the reason why I think it's important is because we do live in a global society, and we have more often now, more and more businesses want to have people that have the skill set of, can you collaborate in a team? Can you effectively work with your colleagues, not only by yourself, but in a collaborative piece? So where you're kind of what they call synergistic.
Like multitasking, concentrating
Right.
multitasking.
So tonight, we're pretty much going to cover collaborative learning and its dynamics, and we're actually going to tackle an issue. We'll actually give you an assignment. So we'll probably do this a little bit differently because we have one person, but we'll try to do it one step. All right, so what exactly are we trying to do today? So the activity basically that we're going to do is going to focus on collaborative learning as a whole. We're going to have you become familiar with working effectively in a group and learn the different dynamics that go in turn that help an effective group. So things of ways of managing, working more effectively with your peers or in study groups or class projects. But collaborative learning, based on Webster, is defined as a form of learning where participants are engaged in the learning process. They're not just sitting there, they're engaged. They utilize interactive experiences to explain group dynamics and learn how to work effectively within a group to solve a problem. And that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. Okay. I am highlighted, so we got that one.
You know how you figure out a problem, you know what that is?
So next, we're going to talk about, before we get into talking about collaborative learning, I think you have to get a really good baseline for Tuckman's stages of group dynamics. Are you familiar with Tuckman's stages of group dynamics?
No.
All right. So Tuckman says there are 5 key components to an effective group. Stages have you. So first of all, we start out at what they call the forming stage. Now, when you think about forming, what first inclination, first thought comes to mind?
Putting information together.
Putting things together, right?
Yeah.
Putting it together, okay. The next phase of Tuckman's stage of development for group dynamics is called the storming phase. And this is one of my favorite parts of the stages, just because when you think about storming, what do you think about?
Drafting, getting ideas in your head to formulate.
To formulate, yes. Now, when you're formulating that plan, is there always going to be an agreement?
No.
No. Okay, so there sometimes might be conflict, right? the dreaded C word.
Mhm.
And I think too often we think about conflict in a bad light, but sometimes it's very effective for us to make sure that we actually have the ability to have conflict, right? Because it can be a positive or a negative aspect, okay? So that's what we'll talk about in just a few minutes. The next part of Tuckman's stages of group dynamics is norming. And when you think about, you've gone through the forming and the storming, what do you think norming means?
Getting a basic of a conclusion together to form.
Yeah, so basically you
you
created,
yeah.
you've had some conflict,
Yeah.
and now you're normalizing.
Yeah.
You're basically bringing it all together so
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page, right? And then when you get to the performing stage, what do you think?
You'll be able to perform it like you'll be able to do it
Okay.
as well as have it written already down and make your presentation or whatever you need to make
Okay.
of it.
So performing is when you're actually taking action. You're actually
Yeah.
taking action.
Taking action.
You've gone through the phase of creation, the clustering brainstorm, the climactic conflict, the normalizing stage. Now the action happens. So performing is the action stage. And then finally you have the last stage, which is called a journey. And a journey means to what?
To bring it all out.
To conclude.
Yeah.
To end.
Yeah.
To end. I think this piece of flip chart paper is very representative of that. So we think over here collaborative learning. And we see that collaborative learning
Your final piece of it. Yeah.
is based on some pieces, okay?
Mhm.
So collaborative learning itself, we think of sports teams, we think of artists. So the thing that brings collaborative learning together that I really love is the idea of synergy.
Mhm.
So synergy is a form of passion, a form of energy, a form of creativeness, team dynamics. So reasons why we do collaborative group work, learning together, work groups, group study, acting as a team, okay?
Mhm.
So forming, as we said, coming together.
Mhm.
Storming is some conflict, and we might have a paradigm shift. Are you familiar with that word? Paradigm shift.
I heard of it.
Okay. Paradigm means to change. So when you think about a paradigm, going back to what we talked about earlier in the journey to graduation, we talked about paradigm shifting.
Mhm.
Paradigms happen when your worldview is challenged. And when your worldview is challenged, you're allowed to grow. So your idea or conceptualization of the world is expanded by taking information in that's different from your own. So hence we have a paradigm shift. Okay? All right. Norming, leveling out. So the conflict's resolved and we're normalizing it. Okay? And then finally performing the final product, putting it all together. And then of course adjourning is the conclusion. Okay? So that's exactly what we're going to do with this activity. We're going to perform a synergistic piece on creating an actual solution to a problem. Okay? Now, here is kind of a piece that kind of shows you a little bit more in detail what the levels look like. So you look at the first one in terms of forming. Team acquaintance and establishes ground rules, right?
Mhm.
Why would ground rules be important?
Because any job you go on or any place you go on, there are always rules and regulations that
Okay.
you have to abide by.
Right.
So it's best to follow the rules
Okay.
so you won't get like a warning or consequences or reprimanding.
Right.
Or
So,
not
so
following.
rules allow us to have structure.
Mhm.
They allow us to see that we can all come together.
Mhm.
Okay? The next stage that we talked about in storming, members resist control by group leaders and show hostility. Have you ever been in a group where you get together and they say there's not enough, there's too many chiefs, not enough followers?
Yeah.
What happens in that scenario with the group?
One is when you get too many people that they don't all agree on things.
Okay.
The second is that this one wants to go this way and they never come to a ground
They never come to a compromise, right?
Compromise.
Well, what usually happens in that scenario? Who usually wins? Is it the extroverted people, the people that are loud and talkative and engaging,
No, the
or
ones
is it the
that
people that are?
the ones that are quiet and that like follows the rules and do what they're supposed
Right.
to do.
But
They
it-
always prevail.
Right, but in that situation, usually
Hmm.
they say the squeaky wheel gets heard.
Yeah.
So if people are introverted,
Hmm.
they're not necessarily, their point of view is not given across. Not always,
Mhm.
but for the most part, usually it's people that are more boisterous or
Mhm.
louder. Okay. Number 3, norming. So members work together, developing close relationships and feelings of camaraderie. So you're coming together, you're normalizing, you're coming
Mhm.
together, you're building camaraderie, you're building that sense of togetherness, that sense of we are a group, we're a team, we're going to conquer this challenge, right?
Hmm.
Can you think of an example where you yourself were put together in a group and you came to a normalized state?
Oh yeah, plenty of times when I was, for instance, the job that I'm on now, the
Okay.
city bistro job. All of us has to come together and like do a job.
Mhm.
But for instance, the last couple of 2 days, I've been there by myself, and the other 2 girls been dipping. So I had to do their work and mine, like
Right.
mark their area and my area too. So I didn't say, man, I didn't want to do it. I just came, went on and did it,
Right,
and got it done.
right,
And then there were instances, some days we all, some of the
Mhm.
girls were there, and we all pulled together and got everything done.
right.
You see what I'm saying?
So it can go both ways.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it should. I think it's an interesting point that you mentioned, Georgette, because this part right here, typically, usually once you've accomplished the storming phase and you're in the normalizing piece,
Mhm.
you're kind of coming together, you're kind of getting that piece of starting to feel what synergy feels
Mhm.
like. So then on stage 4, you really see the synergy flow because this is where team members work together getting their job done. As you mentioned,
Mhm.
everybody has a task.
Yeah.
By
Everybody
working
gotta get it
each
together.
task, you
Yeah.
have to come together to make
Yeah.
it work. Okay. And then finally, number 5,
And then I find out too, once you all work together and get it done, it runs very smoothly.
absolutely, absolutely, no kinks.
You know?
And then finally, a journeying team may disband on achieving their goals or because members leave. So at
Mhm.
the end, they adjourn and they leave,
Mhm.
they got their task.
Exactly.
Right. All right. So moving on here, it just kind of gives you a little bit more specifically. Now, this diagram kind of gives you a little bit more of what the actual behavior or what they call leadership style
Mhm.
is actually discussed. So in the first stage of forming, you're directing. You're directing the project, you're directing coming together, it's directed. The storming phase, you or myself would be actually trying to sell the product. You're selling the idea, you're selling the concept.
Mhm.
Why should we vote this way?
Mhm.
Okay. Norming is supporting. So once we kind of put it out there and we figure out what we're going to do, we're going to support one another, exactly what you just said,
Mhm.
come together as a team to finish the job. And performing, you're delegating tasks to people specifically so that you can make the product, the final product.
Yeah.
All right. So here, kind of a little bit more definitive. This goes in more even detail, if you can, the circles here. So chartering, developing, and sustaining. So as you see the part right there, forming and storming kind of go from chartering to developing, and the norming is smack dab in the middle, developing. And performing goes a little bit in developing, but goes into sustaining, and then you have excelling, is where the exciting part falls in terms of that. So you've got definition, you've got purpose, you've got responsibilities, operating guidelines and endorsement. That's in the chartering piece.
Mhm.
In developing, you have methods of problem solving. This is where you're higher level, and you remember the word metacognition.
Mhm.
So metacognition is a piece that comes in when you are having a higher level of thinking and critical analysis, where you have to think. It's like I'm teaching myself to think better, okay, or I'm teaching myself strategically to tackle the issue more effectively by utilizing a higher level of brain thinking, of functioning, okay? And this one talks about tools and the personal behaviors, how people work together, how they behave. And then finally, in the sustaining piece, we have feedback. So we're going to give you feedback back and forward. And feedback really is basically you sending a message to me sending a message to you, which is communication. And then measurement, self-correction, and then continuous improvement, obviously. So if you're those of you that are management or marketing business majors, this makes a lot more sense.
Oh,
Specifically how we work as a team.
I was a business major. I switched that.
Switch it out.
I done graduated from my business stuff I tried and take.
There you go.
So
Now that we know the processes of norming, storming, forming, storming, norming, and performing, and then going into a journey, now we're going to be tasked with an actual completion of an activity. All right, so what I have here is valuable information in this vanilla envelope. All right?
Okay.
So, basically, here is the deal. You are now tasked, you are taking on the role as an educator. You are a teacher, because that's your major.
Yeah.
So you are a teacher now. You have been assigned a group, a team, to come up with a campaign, a strategic campaign for community improvement. Okay? So inside the information, we're going to go through this, basically deals with what the problems are that the community is facing, what the need is, and how possibly we could go about it. Now, what I've left out is the meat, is the action steps, is the necessary pieces that you have to think about. Okay? So we're going to identify the issues faced by a poor community. We're going to design a development project that meets the needs of that community. And we're going to be able to briefly explain how principles of sound development. Okay? So you now can look at the village profile of BNOC and principles for development project. All right, so the directions, working as a team, we take part in a simulation act game, which will design a development project to meet the needs of a poor community in Nepal. Okay, the community is described in the handout, which I just gave to everybody. Imagine you are a group, like I said, you are a group that is working on this pitch. I am no longer your teacher, I am your boss. So I am the corporate man. You have to sell to me why I should why we should support your plan. Okay? So think of the sky as the limit. We want to think of tangible estimations of funds, what we want to spend on this. So think of me as a wealthy philanthropist. I'm like the Bill Gates. I have money to burn, but I want to give it to the right plan that will maximize the opportunity to help the most people. All right, so first off, we have people in education, we have health, we have nutrition, issues facing women, and community leaders. These are 5 areas that we want to focus our community project on. So traditionally, we would have a larger group. For this activity, I'm hoping that our other individual in the room would like to jump in and help us support, because it's easier to work as a team if you have more than one person. So, the areas we want to focus on is education, the health, the nutrition, the issues facing women in this community, as well as community leaders. Okay? All right. So, here is what the geography looks like of our place. All right? So, BNOC is a small village. It is located in western Nepal. So, if you know geography well, where Nepal is, you are on the border of the Himalayan mountains. So, you're bordering Asia Minor. It's 7 days walk from the nearest motorable roads and a 3 days walk from the nearest airstrip. Okay, and that's all your information that you have before you. So I'll give an extra copy so you can look at this, Clay. So you can see what we're seeing. To the northeast lies a mountain range with peaks raising to 6,000 meters. Most of the surrounding land is hilly with steep, large areas of pine forest. Okay, so you have mountainous areas, you have large pine forests, and you have mountains. Okay? The BNOC's main water source is a small hillside spring. Okay? About 25 minutes walk above the village. Animals also drink from this spring, so the water is not always clean. All right. So, continuing to give you a more of a detailed description of, yeah, you should open it. For 3 months out of the year, before the season starts, the spring produces little water. So, for 3 months out of the year, dry spell. And then we have monsoon season, we have rainy season. So these times, families do not really get a chance to water their crops and almost never wash themselves or their clothes. The rainy season itself lasts for about 3 months. Okay? During this time, dirt paths in the area often become dangerously slippery and eroded and will have to be repaired when the rain stops. All right. So life in Bannock, our city our little town village that we're trying to help out. There is currently 48 families living in this community. Most of the people in the village have small farms growing rice or millet. Few vegetables are grown, and none of the land is irrigated all year round. Due to poor soil quality, meager harvest, and they don't provide enough food for the whole year. Okay? So these months of the year, many of the men, they travel to India, which is about a 2-week journey, to seek work and extra income for their families. All right, so for a few months out of the year, the men leave the village and they go to find work in India so they can bring money back and supplies. A small shop in Bannock sells basic items like rope, tea, tobacco, sacks, and a few clothing. All right? The village has no phones, no electricity. The nearest health clinic is in the district's main town, a 3-day walk from the actual township. This clinic does not always have all the medicines needed. Women often give birth in the small birthing hut outside the village. The small sickle that people use to harvest the crops is used to cut the baby's umbilical cords. Okay? Diarrhea has killed approximately 3 children in the last month. All right? The local primary school is in a village about an hour's walk away. Its teacher, this is the person who's educating the children, has not completed high school herself. Many children don't attend for the whole year because they are needed to work the farms to support the family. All right. The average adult life expectancy is 37 years.
Are these stats actually based on real life, or are they?
They're based on real life.
Okay.
Yeah. The percentage of adults who can read and write is 21.6% is literate. Percentage of women who can read and write is 5.1%. The percentage of girls enrolled in primary school is 17.6%. Those are statistics that are happening in your township, your village. All right? So, some things that we want to focus on. We want to focus on the poverty focus. Projects should really be focused on the poorest of the poor so that most people are not exploited for their communities. You want to make sure that you're empowering them. Sustainable development projects should aim to create something that will last. So you're not just go for a quick fix and be gone. It has to be sustainable. It has to be able to last over time.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Projects should help people to understand the causes of their problems, explore their own solutions, and take responsibility for their own lives and conditions. You want to avoid projects that result in people losing control of their own lives. And projects should be built on the strengths and skills that have enabled the people to survive the hardship. Women should have equal access to benefits provided by the project. It's human resources piece, okay? Also, for the community part, projects should draw people together so they can work cooperatively for the good of all, okay? All right. Participation. Projects should address the hopes and concerns of the communities they serve. Therefore, the local people should participate fully in the planning and management of the projects. Okay? So, questions? All right. You guys, time to work. Here we go in front of the bowl, and our lovely pitch woman here, Miss Georgetta Jones, is going to present to you our plan for how we will help with a sustainability project for the people of Bannock. So take it away, Miss Georgette.
We will get sponsors to sponsor the people to raise the money or sponsor them, to educate the teachers
How will we educate them?
In return, educate them by, because for instance, one of the teachers, she didn't have her GED. So we will educate her to get her GED or to get her diploma so she could teach them and learn new ways of farming, cropping, cultivating the land.
Oh, okay.
So she could teach the people in the community and to get also go to the hospitals there to get the doctors and the nurses to volunteer, mostly women, because most of them feel comfortable talking to a woman versus a man.
Okay. So we've taken care of how we're going to educate them now.
Mhm.
What about number 3? So you talk about sponsors, you talk about education. What about number 3?
Well, once we done educate them for that, we could also educate them to get a water line put in, to go to, actually, to get a sponsor with that, to
What is that? What does WMI stand for?
water
Missions.
water
This is
mission,
international.
international,
You got it.
to come in and then put new irrigation lines and pipe in through so the people could have water.
And what kind of apparatus are they going to create that will collect the water in a timely fashion and filter it to where we can actually use it?
Well, they have different techniques and different ways of doing that by sending people, even if they got to get it from other countries to
Right.
come in
Well,
to
we
put that
want
in.
to make sure it's sustainable. So, in terms of the system, remember what was that one thing called? We could put it on the side of the on the hillside and collect water for us.
Oh, well,
It is a well, but what kind of well?
cistern well, a cistern well.
So it's just using a system when we collect water.
Yes. So, and once they learn that, then they can learn better ways of taking care of themselves, to be healthy, so the baby won't die, and the people won't die either.
Okay.
So, and they'll live longer because they're healthy.
All right. So what's number 4?
Goats. We will get goats.
What kind of goats? Like pygmy goats, or what kind of goats are you
No,
talking about?
ox goat.
Oxen.
One that will fit in the climate.
So a long-haired mountain goat.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And you're going to use the oxen for meat.
Yeah, for meat and for milk, for vitamin D, for them to have nutrients,
Okay.
the better their health.
All right.
Because better bones, the stronger you are. You know?
What about number 5?
Okay, bring women to educate, inspire local women. To educate them in the school system. Like, I will go to different schools
Right.
and get them to come out to sponsor women to help with educating the people.
So more than likely, if you're going to bring women in to educate them, first of all, what if they don't speak any English? First of all, what kind of...
Oh, we have that too, because they have bilingual teachers also that help you. They have in the school system where they have people that can speak Spanish or any other kind of language that would be willing to come out and help too. But all we need is the funding. So can you please sponsor us?
Congratulations, that's good.